The bus with conscripts was driving away from the military registration and enlistment office, and Avery followed it, trying once again to see her Stanley among the recruits. Only half an hour ago she was hugging him, hiding her crying face on his shoulder. "Stanley, how will I be without you? I thought it wouldn't happen so soon. What if something happens to you?" "Avery, honey, time will pass quickly. I'll serve my time and come back. Nothing will happen to me. Don't think about it. Everyone serves and comes back alive and healthy. I'm not going to the war." And then the bus disappeared around the corner. Avery stood a little longer and then walked quietly home. The days passed slowly. A month, another, a third. Avery occasionally called Stanley, saying how much she missed him, and waited, telling him briefly about the news. But she was silent about the fact that recently, while hanging out with her friends in the park, she had met Dennis. Reckless and daring, Dennis was fond of night street racing. He knew how to impress girls, and Avery herself did not notice how she gave in to his irrepressible energy and charm. However, she did not forget about Stanley, and did not allow herself anything extra, forcing herself to believe that Dennis was just a friend. And Stanley served and had no idea that he was not alone in Avery's heart, and that he was moved by a handsome adventurer who had recently appeared in his hometown. One day, Paul, one of Stanley's fellow soldiers, received a short text message from his girlfriend, saying that she would not wait any longer. The guy snapped, broke the phone in a rage, trampling its shards, and headed for the exit from the barracks. But Stanley, who was nearby, held him back. "Wait, where are you going? Do you want problems? You can't prove anything to her, and why do you need her if she can't wait just a year?" "Are you that smart? Of course, you're not the one who got dumped." "Yes, not me, but you'll meet your one and only too." "You too? Have you met already someone?" "Yes, and she will wait for me no matter what happens to me. We've been dating for 3 years. I'm sure of her." "You know, I've known my girlfriend since high school, and yours won't wait for you either." "Are they all like that?" said Paul bitterly, and then suddenly an idea popped into his head. "Well, let's check it out. Write to her that you're in the hospital, that you can't go anymore. And if she'll support you, come or just wait, I'll know that there are normal girls out there." "What? Are you scared? So you don't believe her?" I'll call tonight. You'll be there to hear for yourself, but in the morning I'll call her and tell her I was just checking." Avery heard the call and saw that it was Stanley. "Stanley, honey, hi, how are you?" "Wait, Avery, listen to me carefully. I've been in the hospital for 2 weeks now. The doctors say I'll never be able to walk, you know?" "Stanley!" Avery's voice trembled and interrupted. "What happened?" He, hearing her crying, wanted to reassure her and tell her it was a silly joke, but Paul was standing next to him, and Stanley was silent. And then he turned off the call. In the morning, their unit was put on alert for military exercises, and Stanley just forgot about the fact that he wanted to call Avery. The phones were left in the barracks. When, 3 days later, they returned to the barracks, Stanley saw that there were several calls and texts from Avery. He dialed as soon as he got a chance. He wanted to tell her right away about his terrible deception, but Avery asked him not to interrupt. "Stanley, I've been thinking for a long time, you know. I don't know how to tell you. I'm young, and you don't need a girlfriend now. You need a nurse. And also, Stanley, I met a guy. I hope that someday you'll understand and forgive me. Stanley, I will always remember you. But You should forget me." Avery broke off the call, and Stanley never had time to admit to her that it was a test and that she didn't pass it. Stunned by what he heard, he looked up and saw Paul standing in front of him. He practically heard everything, so he walked over and put his hand on his friend's shoulder. "I'm sorry, Stanley. I'm sorry, Stanley. I shouldn't have challenged you to that bet." "Nah, it's all right. Thanks to you, it turns out I was on the edge of the hole, and you held me back. Still, you're wrong. We will definitely meet decent girls. I'm convinced." After serving in the army, Stanley and Paul stayed to serve under contract. They had been in a hot spot together, where they helped each other out more than once, and became closer than brothers. During one battle, Stanley pulled out of the burning car not only Paul, but also his platoon leader, and was awarded for that by the government. A year later he was wounded and put out of commission, and spent time in the hospital, where he met Thora, a nurse who had been taking care of him for several months. She literally put him back on his feet, giving him back not only his nearly lost health, but also his trust in the faithfulness of a woman's heart. A year later, they were married. Thora was expecting a child and was very happy. Doctors promised that she would have twins. Stanley carried his wife in his arms, pampered her as much as he could, and knew for sure that now everything would be fine in his life. One day, Paul called Stanley. He was trying to organize a security agency and needed a partner. Stanley willingly supported his friend's idea. Not 2 years later, their business began to thrive. They expanded the sphere of their activity and, on a charitable basis, opened sports sections for children from poor families. Such activities did not remain without the attention of the city authorities, and Paul and Stanley received their support for each of their projects. One day, Stanley had the idea of opening a sports centre in his hometown. He went there, talked over all the details with his partners, and was about to return home to his family. The plane was a few hours away, and Stanley decided to take a walk in the park nearby to remember his youth. In one of the alleys, he bumped into a woman who seemed familiar. She was wheeling a wheelchair in front of her with a 7-year-old child in it. They passed each other when suddenly she turned around and looked at him in wonder. He, feeling her gaze, also turned around. Stanley could not believe his eyes. It was Avery, and she, bent over as if from a blow, turned and walked away. Stanley stood, looked after her, and then quickly caught up with her. They said hello, and there was an awkward silence. "You've recognized me." "Yes. Is this your son?" "Yes, my son. His name is Walter." Stanley squatted down and held out his hand to the kid. "Well, hello, Walter." The boy shook his hand timidly and asked, "Nice to meet you. What's your name?" "I'm Stanley. An acquaintance of your mother." For some reason he couldn't pronounce the word friend. "Let me buy you an ice cream. What kind do you like most of all?" Before Avery could even agree, Stanley himself wheeled the stroller with the kid to the nearest street cafe, ordered, and while the boy was enjoying the ice cream, he asked Avery how she was doing. "You can see for yourself," the woman said sadly, and adjusted the collar of her cheap shirt. "And you, I see you're doing well. You're on your feet. I'm sorry about the phone call. It was a stupid joke. I know your mother told me later, but I couldn't change anything because I was already pregnant. I never married Dennis, after all. He had countless women like me. When Walter was born, though, he showed up, gave me presents, and disappeared again. He came every year, and when Walter turned 5, he took him for a ride in his new car. They got into an accident outside of town. Dennis was practically unharmed, but Walter became an invalid. We haven't seen Dennis since. What do the doctors say? Can anything be done? Of course possible. Here we are on the waiting list for an operation, and to go abroad to be operated on, we have no money. At these last words, Avery's voice trembled. She turned to her son and said, "Honey, have you eaten? Come on, we have to go home. And you forgive me, Stanley, and be happy." Stanley went to the boy again and asked him what he liked to play at most. "Airplanes. I wanted to be a pilot before—" "You will be, Walter. You certainly will," said Stanley, and looked sadly at the passing away figure of the woman he once loved. A month passed. One day Avery received a letter. It was so strange that she did not immediately understand what it was about. The letter said that her son was expected in an Israeli clinic for an examination. The services had been paid for. All she had to do was fly there. Avery cried loudly, smearing tears on her sunken cheeks. And 6 months later, when they returned, Walter was walking on his own, leaning on lightweight crutches, which in the very near future he would definitely not need. Avery guessed who helped her son, but did not know the address or the phone number to just call and thank him. A week after his return, Walter received a package. When he opened it, he could not believe his eyes. Wrapped in paper at the bottom of the box was a large remote-controlled airplane, and underneath was a postcard with a real airplane on it, on which, in beautiful handwriting, was written, "Good luck to you, pilot.